Hey guys, Projekt Reaps here, and today I am bringing you an in-depth guide on Brightwing, one of my favorite supports. First, we're going to talk about her basics, going over her kit and all the uses of the kit. Then we'll go through her talents, and I'll kind of tell you guys about all the different uses for the different talent options. Then we'll get into some gameplay, and I'll talk about the different builds I use. And I'm also going to throw in a table of contents for you guys, so you can just click links if you want to jump straight to the different sections. Alright, stay tuned and we'll be back with some more Brightwing info. Where I'm just going to show you guys the kit real quick and go through the talents. So the first thing in your kit is going to be the Arcane Flare. This is the range that you can cast it in. It's got a pretty long delay, I'd say about a second delay, and it does, let's see, so it does 200 damage at level 20 to everything in the outside circle. And then everything on the inside circle gets 600 damage. So it does about 3 times more damage to the inside circle. Now, this is a bit tricky to land, but once you get used to it, it's quite good for zoning people out. It's really good for stationary targets since it's got a little bit of a delay, but I use this a lot against like Sergeant Hammer. And it works really well. Or if an ABBA is too close to a wall, you can drop it on the ABBA. But generally, you want to put it where you know the enemy's either running, like if they're running away from you, you want to try and like get up in there and throw it just past them so they run into it. Or if they're running towards you, you want to throw it right in front of you so they run into it on the way as you back up. And then let's jump to the next skill, which is Polymorph. This will turn a single target, so this is targeted, it's not a skill shot, you just pick a single target, and it will turn them into a random critter for 1.5 seconds. Now, that's not the longest, it's not the shortest, that's about average for crowd control. It will slow them by 20%, again, that's pretty average, in fact, that's not a great slow as far as slows go. 20% is not very much. When you've got things like 80% slows from Water Dragon and 50% slows all over the place, 20% is a little bit meh, but you know, it does its job. The main thing that I use Polymorph for is because they're going to become a sheep, they stop being able to attack, so it's really good to neuter a Butcher as he comes in. The Butcher will come in, and whoever it is he targets... Oh, sorry, I'm jumping into the next section. Let me actually talk about the next power, and then I'll kind of explain how I use them in unison. So, Pixie Dust will provide 2 charges of block, and if you want to know more about block, I will actually link a block video for you guys where I have explained block. They're actually revamping block on Tuesday, 2 days from now, where it's going to do, right now, if you see, oh no, it doesn't even state, it just says it gives you block. Well, until Tuesday, it gives a 50% damage reduction on basic attacks, but they're buffing that to 75%. So it's actually going to be 50% better than it is now on every character who can get block. And this is a really important thing for Brightwing, since Brightwing can give block to any character. So you, again, this is not a skill shot, this is targeted, and you will put it on a single character, and then they will get an increased move speed of 20% and 2 charges of block. Now, on Pixie Dust, because you're very slow as Brightwing, you'll use Pixie Dust on yourself quite a bit to get that movement that you need to keep up with your team. So just keep that in mind. It's not a big mana cost. You just got to worry about that cooldown. So you don't want to do it in combat, but when you're moving between lanes, you'll definitely need to use Pixie Dust to speed yourself up. And then as far as defensively, Pixie Dust is something that really requires timing in order to get the maximum effect. So like I was saying before with the Butcher, if the Butcher runs in, the best way for you to do your kit's cooldown is first you want to put Pixie Dust on the Butcher's target. If you hit them with Polymorph first, then he's immediately going to turn around, and that means he's only going to be fighting and in range for you to damage him for 1.5 seconds, because as soon as he gets there, he's going to run away. Now, if you put block on your target, then he's going to deal substantially less damage for the first 2 attacks, and then you can polymorph him. This will give you about a full second of additional damage, and when you've got several heroes attacking the Butcher, that's going to make the difference. Also, if you know the Butcher very well, he heals based on his attacks, so providing his target with block means he won't heal as much and will make you that much easier for you to kill him. Then, instead of a mount, Brightwing has what's called Phase Shift, which I can show you with this Malfurion right here. You select a target, and you will teleport anywhere on the map right next to an ally. This has a 45-second cooldown, and there's actually several ways you can buff that in the talent pool, and we'll get into that in just a second. Now, Brightwing is a healer, and her trait is how she gets that healing done. Every 4 seconds, as long as there's a hero around you who's been damaged, including yourself, this will go off automatically and heal everyone within that AoE. So if you see here, it's not cooldown, and as soon as I got in range of that Malfurion, it went off and it healed him. Hopefully it looks like he's got a little bit of damage, so we can do it again here. Yeah, as soon as he came in range, you can see the cooldown went off, and that's just kind of how it works. So it's all automatic. So you want to try to stay kind of next to your allies, but it's important that your allies understand that they need to try and stay next to you as well. You're not fast as Brightwing. You don't want to be wasting all your blocks trying to keep up with them so that you get that 20% move speed. So it's important that they do their best to protect and stick with you. So let's jump right into the talents. At level 1, you can buff your trait range by 33%. Now that's pretty substantial. I'll give you guys an idea of how much that is. So when I'm standing right here, you can see this circle around me. It's touching this tower. It's going right through the middle of this fountain, and it's just touching the edge of the hearth. I'll show you again. Just touching the edge of the hearth, the tower, and going, not quite actually through the middle of the fountain, but just so you guys get an idea. So then let's buff it. So, yeah, now it's going all the way to the outside of the fountain, on the top, all the way to the outside. It is adding quite a bit, but not as much as I would like. Like ideally, when taking this skill, I would think the main idea would be so that you can be up in the fray healing your allies, but also hit your Sergeant Hammer over here. And I mean, it'll kind of work for that. In fact, the only time I ever use this talent is when I have a Sergeant Hammer on my team. Other than that, it's pretty uncompelling. So for me, it comes down to the other two. Hypershift will reduce the cooldown of your ability to phase shift by 2 seconds every time you heal an ally, any hero. So that means if you take damage and you heal yourself, it'll go down. If you and the other person on your lane take damage, it'll go down by twice as much. It'll go down by 4 seconds every time you heal both of you. So if you got a whole team battle going on and you're healing all 5 of the allies, this is going to cool down really, really fast, which is going to provide really nice synergy with some of the other abilities you can get at the next levels. And then Bribe. Bribe is really handy for when you don't have good heroes for mercenary control. So, yeah, if you have 0 specialists and you have nobody who can sustain themselves to control mercs, this will really speed the mercs up. But honestly, I know a lot of Brightwing players, they rely on this. They take this right off the bat. This is what they want to use. I prefer Hypershift. And on certain maps, I will always take Hypershift. And that would be on the Towers of Doom and on, what's it called? The temples with the Dragon Shrine and the temples. Those are the 3 levels. So the temples that shoot the lasers, the Dragon Shrine, and the Towers of Doom. The reason for that is when you're doing these maps, you have multiple objectives. You'll have 2 towers shooting lasers, or you'll have 2 or 3 objectives to collect on the Towers of Doom that fire at your enemy, or on the Dragon Shrine, it's a constant battle between top and bottom, and because you're so slow, moving between the lane that they need you on is very difficult, so having that phase shift cooldown faster allows for a lot of map presence, and it's very, very powerful. So then let's jump right into the next one. I'm not going to do these in order because I want to kind of try a No, I changed my mind. I'm going to do them in order, and then I'll talk about the builds later. So, you've got Manic Pixie, which will, when you put this on a target, as long as you heal them in the next 4 seconds, they'll get an additional heal of 237. Now, 237 may not seem like a lot, but if you look at it, this only does 219 heals every time it goes, so this is going to more than double the heal on that target. Now, again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but with Brightwing, it's all those little heals that add up. She's best at healing a spread around since she heals an AoE. She doesn't heal a single target very well. It takes some time to heal a single target, so you got to kind of rotate a little bit sometimes depending on the matchup, but this will help a lot by over doubling the healing on the target who needs the health the most. And then we got Arcane Barrage. This is going to increase the range of your Q by 50%, which is pretty substantial. So let's do that again. I'll try and stand right here. As you can see, it looks like the range on your Q is the same as the range on a buffed D, right? See that? Those are like the exact same range. So that's going to go up 50%.
Good choice.
You can now throw it that far. So I've been on a lot of other websites seeing what other people recommend, and it seems pretty universal that everyone everywhere says that Arcane Barrage is useless, and I completely disagree. In fact, I take Arcane Barrage most often. If I need the Manic Pixie, that's what I'll go for, but Arcane Barrage, what it provides the ability to stay safe and to stay positioned properly so that you're healing all your allies while still providing some zoning and crowd or team support. So like, if you don't have this buff and you want to hit somebody, you have to get in there pretty close. And if you've got backliners who need healing, they're not going to get that healing because you ran up there to drop your Q. Also, it'll allow you to outrange towers very easily, so you can pull sneaky tower shots. It'll allow you to hit a stationary hammer, a sergeant hammer that is, so much easier because of that extra range. So I know that if you frequent other sites and you've seen other recommendations, they won't recommend that you use that power, but I disagree, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys a little clip, or actually, I'm just going to put a link right here to a video of how useful it can be sometimes. And yeah, so then let's jump right into Peekaboo. This is a buff to your Z, which will allow you to have a large area revealed, and I actually want to reset my talents and take that power so that you guys can see how big that area is. It's pretty huge, actually. You reveal that enormous of an area. It's enormous. And if you compare that to, say, Tassadar's trait or Karazim's ability to reveal, nothing compares to how amazing that really is. It's absolutely amazing when you need it. So, and I'll talk about the usefulness of that a little bit. Not just for Zeratul and Nova, that's very limited thinking. If you're against a Tyrant who's going to be using Shadow Stalk, and you can tell from the matchup right off the bat, they usually do use Shadow Stalk since Starfall's pretty lame. This is a great way to counter Shadow Stalk. Another thing is if you've got a Zagara enemy who is doing really good at placing tumors, and she's just covering the entire map in tumors so that she can have map vision, you can use this to go through with your team and kill those tumors pretty easily. The best thing, though, actually has nothing to do with its ability to reveal invisible heroes. The fact that it reveals such a large area can give a very big advantage to your team in team fights, especially over objectives. So let's say you're fighting over the objectives on the Punisher map, and you only have 2 enemies that you're fighting, and you teleport in, you get this vision in this huge AoE, and you suddenly see that they have 3 enemies hiding right here that are going to kill you. It shows you the position of your enemy. If you've ever played Dota or League of Legends, it's almost like a short period of ward. It's like a ward. It's map control, and that vision provides so much more benefit than a lot of people understand or give credit to. And then the other thing is, especially if at level 1 you've used Hypershift, then in team fights you're going to be healing all the allies. This is going to cool down super fast. You can use it every 20 seconds or less, and it provides 6 seconds of vision, so you're providing that vision pretty frequently. And it can be quite powerful as long as you... The other thing, again, a lot of it has to do with positioning yourself right for your heals when using this Hypershift, because if you're healing more allies, then you're going to Hypershift more often. And then... Oh, no, we're not done with it before, because we still have Unstable Anomaly. Now, for some reason, I see a surprising amount of people use Unstable Anomaly. I do not understand this. Okay, guys, let me reset this level to 20 real quick. I don't know why it jumped 21, just because I've been in here too long. But as you can see here, it only does 250 damage. That's very negligible. Most assassins' basic attacks do 250 damage. The only reason I can see taking this would be to synergize it with Bribe. You then could polymorph the middle creep, this one right here. That would cause splash damage to everything. In fact, let's try it real quick. So, Bribe, and I want you to go away. And we'll just wait for another creep wave real quick. But, I don't... It doesn't add enough damage. Like, if you watch Arthas, I mean... That's laughable, how much damage he took. It's purely laughable. Whereas, this does 600 damage, and that's just adding a small amount of polymorph. The only reason I can see to use this, guys, is for pushing lanes. Throw it on that creep, boom, it hits all the creeps. And you follow that up with a nice Q, and you can clear a whole creep wave quite quickly, which will help you get stacks of Bribe really well. This will also make it so Brightwing can soak a lane by herself a lot easier. That's pretty much it. I really don't understand why people take this. But if you guys are watching and you know why people take that, please leave it in the comments, because I'd really like to know. I don't see any benefit from that, personally. So let's jump right into level 7. Every time you use a basic ability, that's going to be Q, W, or E, it will cool down this 4-second ability by 1 second. So it'll take a full 25% off every time you cast an ability. Pretty handy, helps you heal that much more. And you can actually, if you know your teammates are all like hurting really bad, you can just spam all 3 of your spells to get an instant heal, basically. Then we've got Phase Shield. Phase Shield is pretty handy. It adds a 1200 point hit shield. Wow, that's a lot. That's a much bigger shield than Tassadar can provide. It's much bigger than shields you'll get from other supports in general. So this is actually really big, and 20 seconds is a very long timer. So even if you're not in combat, right when you teleport to someone, being 20 seconds, chances are they're gonna be able to use that shield to absorb some damage. The main thing on this is just make sure when you can, you teleport to someone who will need a shield. Teleporting to Abathur, who is not going to get attacked, and giving him a shield doesn't help a lot. Now, if he's the only one to teleport to, sure, get back in combat, but if you can teleport to Sonya or Abathur, you want to pick the Sonya. Then Dream Shot, this would really only be used if you needed to fill out some damage, and also if you're really good shot with your Arcane Barrage, which it does take some practice due to that weird delay on when it actually lands. But if you can land it on a hero, it'll cool down 50% faster. Now this isn't only a 6-second cooldown, so removing 3 seconds from that, just amazing. Oh, you know, actually it only removes 1 second if you hit in the outside circle, and it removes a full 3 if you hit on the inside circle. Now, if they're all clustered together and you hit their whole team, this will cool down instantly. And you can just bam, 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 blast people. So, I've actually had it be really useful when I had like 2 supports and 2 tanks and I knew we needed to fill out some damage. But for the most part, since you're a support and your damage is negligible anyway, one of the other 3 options will be priority. Now Cleanse. Cleanse is so good, but it really comes down to knowing the matchup and knowing what your enemy's abilities do. But this will remove any crowd control from a target and stop it from being applied for 1 second. Now this can be used as an as an ally has been crowd controlled, but you can also use it right before they get crowd controlled, and that can be very potent. Some of the best examples I have are actually going to bring me back to talking about polymorph real quick, because I forgot to mention one of the best uses of polymorph. If you're up against any enemies who channel their spells, Nazebo's ult, Lily's ult, Strafe, which is Vala's ult, or let's see, Sonya's Whirlwind. I'm not going to give any more examples. I think you guys get the picture. When they're using those abilities, if you hit them with polymorph, it will stop them, okay? So against the Sonya, saving your polymorph until she jumps in and starts whirlwinding, that is ideal. You don't just want to polymorph the first target you see, just like, oh hey look, I disabled that guy. You really want to use it on the right target. You either want to stop a melee attacker from targeting someone and attacking in general, or you want to cancel channeling spells. If you can cancel Lily's ult, or you can cancel Vala's ult, it makes a huge difference. It'll completely turn the tide of battle. You used a 15-second cooldown skill to remove their 60-second cooldown skill. It's clutch. Now, that being said, let's talk about Cleanse a little bit more. If you have, say, a Sonya or a Vala on your team, and you see them go in and start whirlwinding, what you can do is you can hit them with Cleanse before they ever get crowd controlled. And that way, if they do get crowd controlled in the next 1 second, they'll just ignore it. If you wait and do it after they get crowd controlled, they have already lost the benefit of that channeling spell. So I hope that makes sense. Cleanse is very difficult to use. It is very difficult to time. And a lot of Brightwing comes down to timing. Timing your polymorph, timing your pixie dust, timing your cleanse. A lot of it comes down to timing and positioning. But if you can do it right, cleanse is usually the best option, unless they have no crowd control. Or if you're doing an all-out phase shift build. So then, oh sorry guys, got a little itch. Let's jump to the ult. So we've got Blink Heal. This is a, let me turn my ally back on. This is a choose a target, jump to it. I actually didn't need an ally, guys, because you can do this to minions. You can do it to heroes, anything that is currently owned by your team. You can even heal mercenaries with it if they're controlled by you. Hey, that's cool. There's a healing dummy. I never realized that that was a thing. Anyway, so you just, and here's the range on it, guys. It's pretty big. So this is my go-to ult for a number of reasons. It'll allow you to reposition. It will also, as I mentioned before, it's hard to keep up with your team. So you don't want to be using Pixie Dust on yourself all game, and this will allow you to Pixie Dust an ally. They'll run faster, they'll run way past you, and then right as they get out of range, you can jump right up next to them and then be right there supporting them some more. And also for escapability, if you get caught alone with your pants down and you're like, oh shit, he's gonna kill me, bam, jump back to the creep wave, and that'll help get you out of there. And then also always remember you can Pixie Dust yourself for the escape to speed yourself up. Then the other ult, let's reset our talents and just take random crap. This Emerald Wind, here's the AoE on it. It will create a Nova expanding from you. It does pretty good damage. 700 damage isn't bad damage at all. And the main thing this is used for is crowd control and repositioning. Now the reason I don't like to take this ult, typically as Brightwing, the enemy wants to target you and kill you, so you stop healing everyone on your team. And typically as Brightwing, you want to be positioned in a way where your front lines here and your assassins are kind of lined up with you. And that way you're healing everybody. And then if you have like long range siege, they'd probably be behind you. Typically, you know, I mean, it's always going to be a little bit different, but in your general like clash, that's how you want to be set up. So with this AoE, that setup, it just doesn't help Brightwing with her heal positioning. Basically what you have to do is you have to put yourself out of position to use this properly. But once one of two of them are dead, or the other one time that it's really good is if they have heroes that are dive heroes. So if they have like an Illidan or like who are the other dive heroes, guys? My brain just stopped. Let's just say dive heroes. I'm sorry, I can't think of one right now. If they have like Illidan or Kerrigan, there's another one who dives in, and they dive in to you or past you, then you move past them and you drop that ult. That way what it's going to do is it's going to push their tanks and their support towards them, and it's going to push the guy who dived towards your allies. And that way you can pick that dive hero off super easily. Usually a dive hero needs support, they need follow through. Once they dive, they will die unless their tanks run in, their support heals them. You know, they need to get some sort of support in there. Crowd control from their tanks and whatnot. So if you can time that right against a dive, you can totally change the tide of battle. Also, since somehow I already got 2 stacks, let me just show you guys how Bribe works real quick. That's all it is. You just pick a target and you bribe it, and now, oh, it's because I got low cooldowns on. But yeah, that's how Bribe works. It's pretty handy. And then let's jump right into the next one. So Sticky Flare, as a support, you probably won't ever need this. The only time I've really seen myself want to use this is if I know my team is using Executioner and I want to help support their Executioner by slowing those enemies down. Now this is a 40% slow, so it's twice the slow of Polymorph. It's quite a bit better. That's a much more substantial slow. It is pretty good, especially if you're good at landing this, or if they cluster up a lot maybe. But traditionally these 2 bottom ones are going to be the ones you want. So additional burst of speed is also kind of nice for keeping up with your allies if they're really fast or something, but I really don't know when you'd want that. I don't know when you'd want that. I've taken it a few times. It's underwhelming. I don't know why you'd ever really choose that over these other ones. Now, reduce ability damage by 50%, by half. This is huge against almost all assassins. I mean, there are definitely your basic attacker assassins. It wouldn't help against us Vala Spect in the right way. But against a Li Ming, against a Kael'thas, if a Kael'thas throws that Pyroblast, that's usually a guaranteed kill. If right before it lands, you Pixie Dust someone with Shield Dust on, you're gonna keep them alive. It's gonna keep them alive. It's gonna reduce that damage by half. I mean, it really, again, that depends on how low their health is at the time and whatnot, but this makes a huge difference. And again, with Brightwing, it really comes down to timing. You want to time it when those heavy hitting abilities land. Then Ice Block would be if the enemy has Pyroblasts and is targeting you with it, that's when you're gonna need Ice Block. Or like if they have AoE stuns or other things that you need to block, that it's gonna come down to things like this Arcane Flare that give you warning before they land, so that you can kind of move out of the way. See, now this Arthas, he can see that I'm doing that. He can see this circle right here, and he knows, oh, that's where it's gonna land, and he has a split second to move out of the way. So when those types of things are headed towards you, that's when you'll hit Ice Block. And let me just real quick show you how that works. So you hit Ice Block, and 5 seconds, you just can't be damaged. You can cancel it at any time by just hitting the button again. So, you know, Pyroblast's coming and they're all chasing you. Right before Pyroblast hits you, bam! but you don't want to stay there and let them surround you for 5 seconds, so you cancel it right after that and then keep running away. And then let's jump straight to 16. So we have 2 buffs to Polymorph. One of them will increase it by a full second. Now it only lasts a second and a half, so that's a pretty big duration buff. However, even though that is a nice duration buff, I never ever take it. I guess if they're all basic attackers, or like you have a real problem with Butcher, keeping that Butcher disabled a full extra second would help kill him a little faster, but in my opinion, it's a little underwhelming. Then Pixie Dust bounces. This is underwhelming except when used with Shield Dust. Having Pixie Dust bounce is usually unnecessary. You'll typically only need to provide block to a single target at a particular time. So, because basic attacks, which is what Pixie Dust provides, basic attacks are generally they're not splash, they're not cleaving, they just hit a single target. So when everybody's targeting a single hero, you just want to provide those 2 blocks to that hero. But if you buff that to provide ability damage, many abilities do area, they do splash damage, and so that's when this will really come into play against like Arcane Orbs, Pyroblast, etc. And yeah, that's when I would take Bouncy Dust, is specifically when you're using Shield Dust. Now, Critterize, this will make the target vulnerable who has been turned into a critter for the full 1.5 seconds. Now, a lot of Brightwings would recommend this to you. Personally, I do not like this skill, and I will explain to you why. First of all the things in the game that provide the vulnerable status, 1.5 seconds is very short. That is an extremely short amount of time to make an enemy vulnerable. Also, when you're using the Polymorph, a lot of the time when you use it, your allies are already focused on an enemy, and that's not the enemy. So if they do turn to attack this Polymorph target, it might take them a full second to do that, and then only 0.5 seconds of benefit are going to be gotten out of this Critterize. So, like, for example, if you use your Polymorph to stop a Vala who's strafing, she might get targeted, but it depends on the position of their heroes. If there's already an Illidan up in there attacking you guys, and you use it to stop someone from channeling, they're not going to turn and attack the sheep. The sheep isn't a threat. Illidan's a threat. He's trying to kill your healer. They're all going to target. So I hope that makes sense. It's just, in my opinion, a 1.5 duration is way too short to justify a level 16 power. I would take Greater Polymorph over that in a heartbeat. But again, that's just me, and I'm just giving you guys my opinion. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't feel the benefit from it, and from the way I see other people play around Brightwing, I don't feel that it's as valuable as some people give it credit for. And then Hardened Focus. Now, I love Hardened Focus. I love it so much, and I typically use Hardened Focus when I'm not using Bouncy Dust. The reason for this is Brightwing is constantly healing herself. And as long as you have a good team composition who can protect the healer, you will always be at full health, which means you're going to then be able to use Polymorph more actively, use Pixie Dust more actively, and drop Arcane Flares more actively. And when I say more actively, 50% faster, that's huge. That means 3-second cooldown on Arcane Flare, 7.5 second cooldown on Polymorph, and a 5-second cooldown on Pixie Dust. This makes a huge difference. It just comes down to, and by the time you're level 16, you should already know, am I above 80% of health most of the time? If you're using Blink Heal and you're positioning yourself properly, you should be at 80% health most of the time. And then the other thing to consider about Hardened Focus also is, say you guys get out of position and you get nuked down and you're at 1/4 health. you just hearth, you go back to the base, you heal up, and you can immediately phase shift back into battle with full health and have those cooldowns reset. So the one thing to note about Hardened Focus, you're gonna plow through your mana, guys. You're gonna burn that mana. So if you're using this, don't over spam your Arcane Flare. Yes, it only costs 35 mana, but you are a support, and you're really taking Hardened Focus so that you can support more often. You're not taking it so that you can deal more damage. So just keep that in mind. You know, you're gonna burn your mana fast when you're using Hardened Focus, and especially if you're just spamming that 3-second Q over and over again. Okay, and then let's jump to, I'm just going to take a random power so I can get in here for you guys. So if you've taken Blink, double wormhole will allow you to blink to another target, so you can actually blink twice. I'll show you guys that in a moment, but let's actually jump to the next one, Continuous Winds. This is used really well in certain areas on the map where you can pin targets against walls, because the 2 additional Novas will push back as well. So if you can get the positioning just right, you can stick an enemy, like if the enemy was here, and I was right here-ish, yeah, then when I use it, it's going to push them into that wall once, twice, 3 times, and that delay on that, that'll keep them out of battle for like a full 2.5 seconds. If used properly, if positioned properly, can completely neuter a team. Again, I very rarely use this power, and honestly I'm not great at positioning it, but I have done it, and I've seen others do it, and it's astounding when used properly. It's just very tricky to pull off. The other one thing with Continuous Winds, the times that I do take Emerald Wind is if they have 2 dives, or if they have 4 melees. If they have 4 melees, your positioning doesn't even matter that much, because they're all going to come in because they're melee, they can't attack from a range, and as soon as they start attacking, you can push them back. They can't do anything because they're melee. So that whole time you're dealing damage to them, and they are forced away from dealing damage to you. Yep, that's what I got on Emerald Wind. So let's jump on to Revitalizing Mist, which I take quite regularly as it is incredible. So Healing Mist is going to increase how much healing you get from Soothing Mist by 25% per stack, and that will stack up to 3 times. So that means up to 75% increased. Let's just do some quick math, guys, because I would like to know at level 20. So let's set the level back to 20. No, turn that ally off. Alright, and then let's see. So at level 20, this heals for 210. And we're going to increase that by 75%. So that would make 367 heal every heal from this on full stacks, which if comboed with Mistified is going to happen quite a bit. So again, it all just comes down to those little heals stacking up, and also positioning. One thing to consider here is if in that 6 seconds you don't heal them again, they're gonna lose the stacks and you have to stack it again. So it really, if you're on a map where you're gonna be split up a lot, I would take the double wormhole. But if you're on a map where the team is always together and they're just always together, then Revitalizing Mist is gonna be where it's at. I have to sneeze. Nope. Okay, I might sneeze randomly, and I apologize for that in advance. Storm Shield. It's a tough choice between these, because these are both going to be for the more team fight oriented versus the split map objectives. But Storm Shield is going to help really negate instant burst damage, and this also will require pretty good timing, or you can just pop it right when you go into battle. But if you're not good at timing your Storm Shield and you're not sure which abilities it's best used against, Revitalizing Mist is probably the way to go. And Rewind, I don't know why you'd ever take Rewind. I don't know why it's in Brightwing's kit. And that's all I really have to say about it. Yeah, you just burn through your mana really fast. It's on a 60-second cooldown. I've never really even tried it. I have no need to shoot 2 arcane flares. It would kind of be nice with polymorph, but again with Pixie Dust, the same thing with the Pixie Dust bouncing. You just typically don't need to Pixie Dust 2 targets at once. Now, being able to Pixie Dust the same target, or whichever target is being attacked, more rapidly because of Hardened Focus, that, to me, you know, I feel like that's a lot better. That way, Sonya's under attack, Pixie Dust. It bounced to Falstad, who nobody's attacking. Cool, it did nothing there, right? But, oh, Sonya's under attack, I Pixie Dust her. She still had to run away, and now Arthas is under attack, and Pixie Dust is already cooled down because it's only been 5 seconds, or already been 5 seconds, and I have Hardened Focus, if that kind of makes sense. I hope so. So, let's close that, and then that is going to be it for this section, and then we're going to jump into a replay, so I will be right back with you guys. Let's jump right into the replay and some talent synopsis. We'll talk a little bit more about the talents, when we take them and how they work, and then you'll see a little bit of how I use Brightwing, and I'm just going to kind of try and go over all the different things that I know about Brightwing. Again, Brightwing is my most used support, one of my only level 11 supports. I use Brightwing quite a bit, although she is a very map dependent hero, and that's probably the only reason she's not a higher level. I'd probably play her all the time, especially in the ranked games, but I end up playing Malfurion, as that ability to provide mana to the team is pretty clutch, and a lot of the time that phase shift ability, her Z, is actually more of a hindrance than a help. So first of all, I just took the ability that as I heal people I can teleport faster, and I typically do that on this map or on the temples or the Dragon Shire. Those are the 3 maps that I really enjoy playing Brightwing, because her phase shift ability becomes so much more powerful than in the other map setups. And the reason for that is due to multiple objective locations. As you can see here, as far as gameplay goes, we're just harassing the crap out of this Cho'Gall. In fact, we even killed him. This Dr. Green Thumb, great name by the way, Dr. Green Thumb, that's awesome, I love that. Now I've gone down, this guy Beals is actually my friend in real life who joined me, and we've got a hammer in this game, so I will probably, I don't remember this game, it's been a little bit since I did this game, but I will end up most likely, oh, we're gonna kill her because I'm in voice comms with this dude, and she's gonna chase me down and die. So every 4 seconds I'm healing myself, which is how I've got this health back, and boom! That arcane barrage is just great. I love it. I see a lot of people in the forums talking about Brightwing and her lack of damage output and how they don't really like arcane barrage. I don't understand that. I love arcane barrage. It definitely does have a weird timing. I know I didn't talk about this earlier, and I probably should have showed you guys, but if you actually cast arcane barrage right next to yourself, it removes the delay. The delay actually has to do with the animation of it falling. So if you alt cast it, it's instantaneous. There is no delay at all. So if you're being melee attacked, you can start running and hold alt and then push Q, and it'll happen instantly. So we just dominated that objective, and here we are at level 4. And you can see I'm kind of checking the matchup, checking what we're up against a little bit, and I'm almost certain I'm gonna pick Arcane Barrage. But I know I just left this open for you guys because I was just kind of showing you guys like what I'm looking at. And Arcane Barrage is what I took, and as you can see, it was immediately helpful. I would never have been able to land that blast on that Sergeant Hammer. 2 in a row, he's about dead. That was all because of that increase to range on Arcane Blast. Against a hammer, it's very helpful. And there's another thing I wanted to mention that I know I forgot to mention earlier in the video about why I really like that talent. The reason I really enjoy that talent, yes I died, but I saved Beals, so I can teleport back into battle. heal, and everybody will be back in battle faster. I will typically sacrifice myself as Brightwing to save a teammate if that situation pops up, because I'll show you guys here on the map. You can see, you know, he's healing and I just got back. I'll be back in battle before he's back in battle. I'll be soaking before he is, because I can just teleport to this. Oh no, I was gonna teleport to him and then I saw he was gonna die, and then I ended up teleporting to this Jaina to save her life, because that's what you do as a support. You save people. Jaina, you're crazy. Let's get out of here, man. He's actually pretty smart. They were all clustered up, so to hit him with all your AoEs and scare him off, he did a really good job. Oh, did you see that arcane blast? That arcane barrage? That was the increased range. I don't understand why people don't think it's not helpful. Anyway, the other thing I was going to say is there's a lot of positioning things that you'll run into where, like, let's say you're on, and I hope you guys who are watching are at least a little bit familiar with the maps when I talk about them, but let's say you're on the map with the curses, right? And you've got a boss like right here on the map and a boss right here on the map. Now when you're fighting these bosses, there's this little area right here with some grass, and it's really easy to get ambushed in the middle of a boss fight if someone isn't standing in that grass providing vision behind you. Now, Brightwing's auto attack, her basic attack damage, is pretty negligible, so if you're in a boss fight and you do have the increased range on your barrage, you can actually sit in that grass. And that's not the only spot. I mean, just down here on this map, when you're doing the bottom collection, I don't know what they call this, shrine or temple or whatever it's called, but there's grass right here, and you can hide in that grass and still fire barrages at their main line. It just gives you so much more area to work in so that you can position yourself better and zone the enemy out from further away while keeping yourself at safe range. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I am landing that center ring hit almost every time I drop that arcane barrage. Oh, I don't want to die. Oh, that was sweet little juke right there. Another thing with Brightwing is I like to just kind of hang out with low health because I know I'll replenish it, and the only time that I don't do that is if I'm using, if I'm sure you guys watched earlier, the talent at level 16 that reduces your cooldowns if you're over 80% life. When I'm using that, I tend to stay at the back more and fire my barrages from the back more. So it does combo really well with that power at level 4 to increase the range. It looks like we're already level 10, and I didn't talk about what level 7 I took. But since this is a phase shift centric map, and you're doing a lot of phase shifting, I know for sure what I did was added the shield to phase shift. And that way anybody I teleport to gets a nice hefty shield. That'll really help the two squishies on my team, which are Jaina and Sylvanas. So this is the area I was talking about before. While standing right here, you can kind of see over here, and you can shoot barrages all the way over there. You see that? All the way over there, without leaving the cover of this grass. And what that does is you can see when the enemies are coming, so you can retreat sooner, and it provides that map control, that map presence. That vision is very, very important. And as a support, providing vision in the right, not scouting Nova vision necessarily, but providing vision is a big thing, and it's a big help for your other teammates. It's very much similar to the idea of wards in Defense of the Ancients or in League of Legends. So we just pushed this base. If you guys aren't familiar with this map, we've actually pushed top and bottom right now at only 7 minutes in, so I mean, we're just absolutely dominating them. And if we actually manage to take this middle base, so on this map you can't attack the enemy directly. The objectives attack the enemy's core. So it's very interesting in that way. There's not as much benefit to being a specialist because you can't push all the way into the core. However, if you're able to do split pushes and take all of the bases, so you own these ones and these ones. By the way guys, what I'm doing right here, this is moronic, and I should not be doing this. This is very stupid. I'm losing all my health. I'm spending so much time out of battle, and as a support, You'll hear me say this time and time again throughout my guides. When you are playing a support, it is your job to support. You should never be alone. You should always be with at least one ally, pumping heals into them. Your stuns do nothing. Your damage does nothing by yourself. You as a support, you are useless by yourself. The whole class is called support because you're there to support. And when I see supports off doing what I was just doing, I yell at them because that's ridiculous. And I mean, we're 3 levels ahead. Obviously, my team didn't need me. If you were watching, I checked the map. I watched my team to see if they needed me to teleport. But that doesn't make it any better. I still should have been there, you know? I should have been there healing people and making sure that the kills and everything went smoother. But instead, I was doing nothing. I was just doing a bunch of nothing. So it looks like this time I have taken Emerald Wind to push the enemies back. As I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of this ult. I'm actually still trying to learn the right positioning to make it an effective ult. The reason I took it in this matchup, there's probably a couple reasons. One, I do like using it when I'm doing a phase shift build. When you're not using a phase shift build, and you can only phase shift every 45 seconds, it makes it really hard to get around as Brightwing, and if you do get out of position, it's really hard to get back into the right position, but Blink Heal will help you with that. If you're ever getting targeted, if you're ever getting singled out, you can blink, as I showed you before, to allies or whatever, and it really throws your enemy off and really gives you a nice advantage. I was going to say I'll probably do it right here, but I can't because I didn't take that ult. It's also on a very quick cooldown, so you can use it pretty regularly. You can even do things like, right now while we're retreating, if I did have it, I would have stayed up here. Oh, you guys can't, sorry, I'll point with the cursor. My bad, guys. I would have stayed up here to the left, let them hit me a little bit, and then I would have blinked to my ally so that they would have stopped chasing, they would have stopped pursuing to focus me, and to attack me they would have to stop moving. And that way they wouldn't make as much progress towards my allies as they retreated, and then I'd teleport to my ally. I would probably Pixie Dust my ally. That would make my ally run even faster, and then I'd blink to them again to get as much distance between me and the enemy as possible. And here we are, we're all pretty low health, but we got a Brightwing, and Brightwing heals AoE, heals the whole team. So as long as we just stick together and stick to me, and they're not doing that, they're running away because I have low health. Don't do that, guys. Brightwing's right here. Yeah. No matter. I won't be here long. It looks like this base is about to die, so I'm just taking the base right before they do the objective. And they even waited to do the objective to come help and protect me because they're an awesome team, and they pay attention to pings and chat. So, guys, if you're also watching this, pay attention to your teammates' pings. If they ping for help, if they want help with a merc camp, you know, just help your team. That's what this is, a team game. And I know a lot of people are used to playing this is Heroes of the Storm, are used to playing Dota or LOL where you have a carry. But the greatest part, and in some ways the worst part about this game, is that it's so well balanced. You don't really have a carry. There's no hero that can take out the entire enemy team. You need a support, you need a tank, especially if you're up against a team that's competent even remotely. So right here what I've done is it was kind of pointless, but assuming he had more health, it was pointless because he was going to die no matter what, but the goal there was to push their tank into my team so that they all died. Oh shoot, yeah, see, this guy should have died from the dots, but because he's staying nearby, I was able to heal, and I mean, look at all their health. Oh, that's scary stuff. Yeah, that hammer came up and flanked us, managed to kill 2 of the low health guys, but I mean, we killed all 5 of them. This is 2 people, so that's why it's 5. And they only killed 2 of us, and we definitely came out on top of that. This is just an absolute domination game. I mean, they haven't even got a single objective. We're just absolutely tearing them apart. It's pretty brutal. In fact, we might boss right now, but there's not really a point. The boss will actually only hit this for 4 health, and since they have 5 health left, it's kind of like, you know, why bother? Let's see. So at 13, I don't actually know what I took at 13, guys. I wasn't paying close enough attention. I got so much to talk about, so much to tell you guys about. Let's see, it's a phase shift build. I can't remember who's even on their team, so I don't know if I... Well, if they have casters, I would have taken the reduced ability damage on Pixie Dust, but I don't think they do have a lot of casters. At the end of the game, if I haven't figured it out, I'll go back for you guys so we can kind of talk about it. But I'm going to talk about all the different builds that I use and how I make those decisions. So right here, we were in a little bit of trouble, so I pushed the enemies back, and that was actually a really bad thing to do. Right there, that was a really bad ult. Zool continued chasing into their base, and because I pushed them back, he wasn't even landing hits anymore. But he continued chasing, and then he got focused really hard, and that was mostly my fault. And then the other thing is I went with him. I tried to support him a little bit and get in there, and it was not worth it. So while I'm dead, it looks like we're looking at stats. Let's take a quick look at the stats here. Zool with 20 assists. That's awesome. This Dr. Green Thumb is killing it, dude. Pushing with that siege damage, tons of XP. He's perfectly fulfilling his role. As a specialist, you should be pushing lanes. You should have that siege damage, and an XP contribution is your main thing as most specialists. So this right here, this is beautiful. Beals is also a specialist, but he's kind of more speccing towards assassin. As you can see, we only have really one main damage dealer, and he's definitely doing his job. Since and as I've talked about, and as I will talk about with every character, you don't necessarily have to fill the role that you're like. Just because Sylvanas is a specialist doesn't mean she can't spec to be more DPS. And I don't want to call her as an assassin. She's not. She still has trouble closing a kill by herself, but if you use the right talents, you can put out a lot more damage. And as you can see, this is very true. He's put out more damage as a specialist than our Jaina has as an assassin. So he's definitely fulfilling his role right now. And he's also doing, decent in the siege damage area, just about the same as everyone else. And then, Jaina hasn't even died. Awesome. And I thank myself a tiny bit for that, keeping her alive. But that's also all on her. That's great positioning, using her chills to keep herself out of danger. And our Artanis actually, I don't know what's up with his stats. He doesn't have huge damage. He hasn't absorbed a lot of damage. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But I'm not complaining because this team has been glorious. Doing everything. Tyrande, about what you'd expect, but with really low heals. I mean, Tyrande should never have as much heals as I have since she's like half a healer, but that's not very good. Anyway, we'll jump back into it. They've got a whole 9 kills. Wow, that's just sad, guys. It's just sad. Well, it looks like this game will be ending pretty soon. Somehow they managed to live another 3 minutes. I remember my friend that I was in voice comms with being like, "Oh my gosh, no, they actually got one of the objectives!" That's how bad we were dominating them. They might get 2 of them. Looks like at some point while I was looking at the stats, they wiped our whole team, so looks like Cho'Gall did get 2 of them. And that's actually the only reason the game's not over right now, but it won't change anything. When it comes down to it, I don't feel like us beating them this badly is a matter of composition. This is a matter of playing to your role's strengths and playing your role properly, like doing your role. We have an assassin, and then we have 2 specialists, and one of our specialists said to himself, "You know what? I can see in this team composition, we're really lacking damage. I'm gonna, instead of being a second specialist, I'm gonna go more for damage." And that's clearly been crucial. He's our highest damage outputter. So here I come, and this is what I was trying to do before, guys. I have completely separated the tank from the rest of the team. And then 2 of our allies right here, they went and zoned out that Lunara so she couldn't help. And this allowed us to kill off 2 of them. 3 of them, actually, since Cho'Gall's 2 heroes. I don't understand why those two are running. They should just stick next to me for heals. And I've just increased my heals with Revitalizing Mists, but they're the other options we talked about before. I'm not great with my ult, so I didn't bother taking continuous wins, because, I mean, come on, like, if you're not landing it properly, then what's the point? But with the other thing is, Cho'Gall, I think I know now what the other reason I decided to take this ult is Cho'Gall is also a very positional based hero, and for him to land a lot of his damage, he needs to be in a line from it. So when you can push him out of his positioning, it messes with both of them. It messes with their communication, because the two people have to work together. You know, the one who's moving the hero has to position it right, and the other one has to move around. So as of right now, we do hold 5 bases, so that means we'll deal 5 damage at the collection of an objective, and we just collected bottom, so that should be good game. Yeah, and that is good game. And how I kind of go about them. So I know I've talked about most of this before, but I just kind of want to show you that one of the things I really do not like about the current community in Heroes of the Storm, and honestly about a lot of the people who are doing what I'm starting to do and casting information about these games, I see a ton of this is the build to use, and I really hate that mentality, guys. It's a bad mentality to have. There are a few heroes who have some really crappy talent options, and for those heroes specifically, I can agree with it. Don't take crappy talent options, pick the good talent options. But it's very important to look at the map you're on, the teammates that are on your team, and the enemy composition you're up against, and to base your talent choices on the actual matchup, not just on your hero. That's a bad way to look at it. This is not Dota. This is not LOL. You know, and even if it were, in certain matchups, you get different items to compensate or to deal with certain enemies, and that's exactly what talents are for. So that's a big part of the reason I'm making these guides, is I see a lot of people take talents that just don't make sense in the matchup. And so, even though I do have builds that I rely on, they're all kind of variable. So that's what I want to kind of talk about right now. Now, as we discussed before, I will almost never take Unfurling Spray. So right at the beginning of the game, it's a choice between these two things. And to make that choice, it's, as I kind of mentioned before, it's going to be coming down to the map. If I've got a map with objectives that are in multiple locations, I already know my team's going to end up split up, and I want to be able to support them wherever they need me. Being able to do that is very important, and Hypershift makes a huge role in that. Then the other thing to look at is, and if you watch my Bribe video, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but if your matchup doesn't have good heroes for taking out merc camps, using Bribe to take those merc camps out is very helpful. However, a lot of the time I will end up taking Hypershift anyway if I do have any heroes like Sylvanas or the Lost Vikings. Zul's not very good at taking camps himself. He ends up taking more damage than as a specialist, he's probably the worst at it. But any of the other specialists, Azmodan, Gazlo, if I have them on my team, I'm assuming they're going to take care of camps, and I usually don't take Bribe, because Hypershift and Phase Shield comboed together are very potent. But, the other thing is right at the beginning, you got to make a lot of decisions. Are you going to need cleanse? If your enemy matchup, which if you're playing ranked, you almost always need cleanse, because people stack their crowd controls. They stack those roots, they stack those stuns, and you need to drop that cleanse either on your tank, like your ETC who's about to ult, so he doesn't get stunned to counter his ult, or on your DPS that dives in, like if you've got a Greymane or an Illidan, and they're going to jump in and they're going to kill, say, Lieutenant Morales. You want to hit them with the cleanse so that they can get in and get out. If they get stunned while they're in there, they're just going to pop. They're squishy dive heroes. And so, you got to look at, do they have crowd control? Will I need cleanse? And, you know, if you're going to need cleanse, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take Hypershift. Hypershift is still good, but it's not as good if you're using cleanse, since you won't be providing a shield every time you teleport. It's so hard to, like, tell you all the little variations, but I'm going to just try and do my best. So, Bribe when needed on the maps where phase or Hypershift is not needed. However, if Bribe is not needed due to your composition, Hypershift is the go-to. Then here, this is going to come down to do you need Peekaboo? Are you dealing with enemy heroes that are invisible? Are you dealing with Zagara using creep tumors? And specifically on the map with the Punishers, I can't remember what it's freaking called. Punisher map is called Infernal Shrines. Yeah, if you're playing the Infernal Shrines map, Peekaboo's amazing for the Infernal Shrines map. Even if they have no invisible heroes, if you're using Hypershift, Peekaboo, I would really recommend it on that map, because what you can do is, while you guys are doing the objective, every 20 seconds or so you can teleport in and give your teammates that huge vision I showed you guys earlier, and it'll let them know when the enemies are coming, what direction they're coming from. That way you can get your tank positioned properly with your squishies in the back, and you can really handle that team fight. You won't be ambushed because you'll always see it coming when you're using Peekaboo properly. Again, I almost never take Unstable Anomaly. The only time I would is to get my Bribe stacks a little faster, like particularly if I had maybe a Cho'Gall on my team, and so we're down a person, technically, or an Abathur, and there's going to be a lane that's down a person, because those characters are going to, yeah, if you should be familiar enough with the heroes to understand what I'm saying, I hope. And in those situations, you may end up laning alone as Brightwing, and that's when I would use Unstable Anomaly. And then, as I talked about a lot in that gameplay, I am a huge fan of Arcane Barrage. Just freaking love it. However, if they have a Leeming and I know I'm going to be using Shield Dust, then I also know I'm going to be using Bouncy Dust, and I'll typically use Manic Pixie to just increase my team heals across the board. So at level 4, you know, it's really anybody's game, but usually for me it's going to come down to one of these three. That one, only if I know Zera, Nova, or that map that we talked about, and then otherwise probably one of these two. And this will really also be matchup dependent. If they have some good burst damage and you're going to need to heal a lot of burst damage, this is good. If they have some long range heroes like Sergeant Hammer, then I really like that Arcane Barrage. Then here, I would only take phase, like, you never want phase shield if you're not using Hypershift. 45-second cooldown for a level 7 talent, no good. Don't do that to yourself. You will hate it. No, don't do it. Okay? But if you took Hypershift, then this is always a good option. However, you're probably going to be relying on cleanse a lot if you're playing ranked games. Now, Dream Shot is really good. I've actually ended up using this a number of times recently. If you're lacking, now this is only going to happen in quick match, or if somehow you have the worst ranked team ever, because you can't do a what are they called? The draft. You can't do a draft and pick a team composition so bad that you need Dream Shot. That should never happen, okay? But if you're in quick match, and I just had this earlier today, you get 2 tanks, 2 healers, and a specialist, you're going to be lacking damage. No matter how your specialist spec, no matter how anybody specs, that composition severely lacking damage. It was Uther on my team, by the way. It wasn't Tyrande, it wasn't Karazim, it wasn't someone who can put out a decent amount of damage as a support. We were really lacking damage. We absolutely dominated that game, by the way. We just completely obliterated those guys. Dream Shot, I was cooling it down almost instantly every time I shot that thing, landing it on people, and I had the second highest hero damage in the game. It was pretty awesome. And there was just no real need for the other ones. I wasn't using Phase Shift, I was using Bribe and Unstable Anomaly. I did, again, need to add a little bit of damage, and we also, I had Bribe, so I was just comboing it for Bribe, really. But it helped a lot in the end, just to make up that damage. But in a good composition, you don't need Unstable Anomaly to make up damage, guys. I would still love to know why people take it. I see on HotS logs, if you guys ever want more stats than what they offer in-game, if you ever want to find your stats in-game, guys, you just click your portrait up here at the top right, statistics, and there's really awful list of statistics. It's really not that helpful, but I mean, as you can see, I've got just over between a 50 and a 60% win ratio, and that's I have never played with a 5-man group. I've never had 5 people that I was like, let's all get in voice comms and play. I would love to do that. So if you guys play and you guys want to make a team and try, I'm happy to play anytime. At least as of right now in March, I'm unemployed, so I got all the time in the world, and that's one of the reasons I'm focusing on these. So if you guys want to do that, you know, hit me up in the comments, and we'll do it. I'll add you guys as a friend. You guys can see my friend tag right there, so just go ahead and feel free to add me, and I'd be happy to play. I'm on the US servers, and let's jump back into it. So let's say we're going on an all phase shift build. You know, this is also going to come down to the matchup. If they have a lot of melee heroes, I'll take that Emerald Wind. If they have a lot of burst damage, I'll try and counter that burst damage with the Blink Heal. But as I mentioned before, if I'm using phase shift and if I'm using phase shift, I'll take Emerald Wind. But if I'm not using phase shift, often I don't like to take Emerald Wind. And then here, I actually was using Sticky Flare in this game earlier, so this was my build in that game. And then I was actually using Critterize, and yeah, that was my build for the team that I needed to provide some damage. And we only had the one specialist, so I was making sure to take care of the bribes. And then a little extra damage here, quite a bit of extra damage here, on top of some nice crowd control from that. Healing here, since I haven't buffed healing, you know, most of the other places, that's another thing to consider as a support. Like, a lot of the supports, you have one ult that provides healing and one ult that doesn't. It provides utility. If throughout the other talents, like right here, I didn't buff my healing here, I didn't buff my healing here, or here, or here, or here. So taking the healing ult as a support, it's pretty important. And that's going to lie true to any support class you play. Like, if you're playing Lily and you want to do a Water Dragon build, you should probably spec heals into your other talents. And then you can sacrifice that healing ult, but still be a pretty potent healer. And on the flip side, if you say... Never mind, we'll talk about Lily later, guys. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained. I love my supports, and I love the way that this game, Heroes of the Storm, provides these talents so that every time I play, I don't have to do the same crap, and that I can fill the role that's needed instead of just being the same hero every time, getting the same items every time. You know, it really takes a lot of the tediousness out of the game and makes it something that you want to keep playing over and over again, because every matchup's going to be different, every map's going to be different. So let's talk about more builds. So Bouncy Dust will always be paired with Shield Dust. Really I never use the rewind, but really you could do any of these depending on, you know, what ult you took. And so like here's a common build that I use right here. So this would be a phase shift build on one of those 3 maps we talked about. And this is variable, so I may end up taking any of these 3, but the rest of this would be pretty static. And then this would be like against a Leeming or a Kael'thas, where I know I'm going to be dealing with a lot of ability damage. If they don't have that, then you know, I might take Ice Block to deal with a Nova or a Kael'thas's Pyroblast, or I would never. I have taken Pixie Boost, but I just don't really like it. I don't see a benefit of a 1.5 second move speed. I mean, I guess every once in a while you might be able to help someone escape or get a nice chase down kill, but all in all, this will secure more kills for you if you're good at landing your Arcane Barrage. 40% slow for 2 seconds. I mean, that's twice the crowd control of your Critterize, except they can keep attacking, so I mean, it's kind of flip there or not. I don't know, if you guys use Greater Polymorph, let me know. I haven't played with it a lot. The only real time I take this is against a good Butcher. So, like, the match could start and I'm up against a Butcher and I don't think to myself, oh, I'm going to be using Greater Polymorph this game. But if that Butcher's becoming a problem and he's killing us a lot, then, like, around a level 10, when I start seeing that Butcher's getting all the kills and racking up a lot of damage, Greater Polymorph becomes pretty important to me. And the reason for that is being able to take him out of combat for a full extra second. It's a huge benefit, and that's like a 75% gain on the duration. So that's the primary hero I've found that it's really good against. I could see the same thing being true of Artanis, seeing as how Artanis needs to melee attack in order to continue tanking. Being able to take him out for a full extra second would be pretty important. However, I still think against Artanis, Critterize may be better, as doing that extra 25% damage is pretty nice. And then, as I mentioned before, the problem I run into with Critterize is, like I also mentioned, I'm not often in voice comms with my whole team, maybe just 1 or 2 players, and so getting them, meaning my allies, to focus the critter in the 1.5 second duration is very difficult, so it just doesn't happen for me a lot. Let's see, what other builds do I... Oh, you know, yeah, I was actually using... I don't know which one of these I was using in the... Oh, yeah, so I'm sorry guys, I'm all over the place here. I hope I'm getting all this across to you. I want to talk about the damage build I was using earlier. So using these 3, if you're using Dream Shot, you do not want Hardened Focus, okay? Because that's just too much cooldown for a 6-second power. You don't... this right here is going to lower it to 3 seconds, and it's just... It's a waste, really, of your talents. Your talents could prove more beneficial with any of those 3 when using Dream Shot. However, if you had to take Cleanse, and you still need to provide some damage for the team... these 2 in combo can do that pretty well, and then having this in there instead to make this, you know, shoot farther, it's good synergy. You just gotta look for that synergy and really consider, like, how am I gonna use this during this matchup? How is this gonna benefit me the most? So, and then again, in any build, Ice Block may be necessary if you're dealing with Pyroblasts being fired at you, or triple taps being fired at you, or a lot of crowd control that you need to negate by ice blocking at the proper time so that they blow their cooldowns without actually crowd controlling you. So this is always an option, but Shield Dust is typically your go-to. In most matchups, Shield Dust is what I use. And anytime I take Shield Dust, I pretty much automatically take Bouncy Dust, as every 10 seconds being able to reduce damage by 50% it's unbeatable, really. It's probably Brightwing's most potent ability right there. And yeah, I think that's it, guys. Storm Shield, I'm gonna make a video about that pretty soon and when to use it, but it's best against big AoE blast type targets like Kael'thas's Q and stuff like that, and if you can time it just right and negate all that damage, it's pretty awesome. It's really good. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. I really hope you liked and found the video helpful. If you did, please hit that like button at the bottom, as that helps me. But also, if you have any friends who you think would find this information helpful, I appreciate any shares or directing your friends to my channel. Speaking of which, if you like the channel and you want to see more videos from me, you can hit right here, and that will subscribe you to my channel. And then also over here are some other videos that I've made regarding some video game stuff. So hopefully you find all that as informational as you found this. I hope to see you guys next time, and have yourself a great day.